Hello and welcome to Elseworlds, a DC fan podcast. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, is Chris. How are you
I
today,
am
Chris?
doing great today. I'm doing absolutely fantastic. We have a birthday to celebrate, and it is Superman's.
Yes, he is 21 and a half years old because he's a leap year baby. And
It's like the
on our
Rugrats thing. It's like they're
yes,
they've been 2 years old since 1988, whatever.
on our first ever news update episode is Ron. He's been on some drafts. He's been on, I think that's it for DC, but you're on our first news emergency podcast here that we've had you on. How are you today, Ron?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I thought Chris was going to start us off with his usual dance routine there coming out of the break, so I'm a little bummed there. But besides from
I was
that,
going.
I'm doing
I was going. I was
just
flying
a,
like
more
Superman.
casual,
Yeah,
more
it's a more
casual drop
casual
today.
How-I type of dance.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, I love the Superman picture behind you, Ron. So that's good.
Thank you. Yeah, that's my new thing. I've decided that whatever
Yeah,
we're
it's
talking
nice.
about that day, that's going to be the timely image behind me. So
It's nice, and yeah, happy birthday, Soups. I put out a tweet today because I felt like I'll just say a lot of people felt very entitled to something today, and I couldn't stand it. So just getting that off the top of the show here, I put out a tweet saying like, I see a lot of people say Gunn has to go big or show us something today, and I didn't think that was true. I'm glad he showed us something, and that's what we're here to talk about. But when fans start saying we are owed this or we should be getting this, and they kind of put that expectation out there that quite frankly a lot of times we don't deserve, and it's like these are people that are just doing their jobs, let them do their jobs. And I know it's like making movies and it's entertainment for us and stuff, but I don't know, it just came across really entitled, and I couldn't stand it because I see this type of stuff happen all the time regardless of the topic. You could have said last year we were entitled to stuff because it was his 85th anniversary, right? Like, you can make up almost any excuse.
any excuse.
And I know this was a big deal because it's his birthday. It's technically a leap year. We only get 21 and a half of these, apparently, if you divide 86 divided by 4 or whatever. So it is, it's just something like that where I just felt like I needed to put that out there because I felt like if he hadn't posted anything, people would have lost their shit, and I didn't want to see that. Thankfully, we did get something, and it's something that it's not like we would have got this if they weren't about to film a movie, and that's the thing. Like the filming was starting this week anyway, so that is why I think people had this expectation. And I'm glad we didn't get a full suit reveal, but we'll put up the picture of what we did get. And again, people were very I want to say like rude. This is just the online thing all the time, and I can't stand it. And I know I'm starting off the top of the show here a little PO'd, but that's how I felt today. Because look, okay, so Gunn goes out there and says in this statement, overjoyed to be announcing the start of principal photography on Superman today, which just happens to be coincidentally and unplanned Superman's birthday. And this guy responds, unplanned? Really? So there is no schedule for the principal photography? You just woke up and felt like shooting the movie today?
That one's gotta
Emoji,
be a
emoji,
troll.
emoji,
Yeah.
emoji,
That's
emoji.
gotta be.
Like,
That one's
come
gotta,
on.
That's got to be a troll.
Well,
Like, come on, man. I get you're excited and all, but it's a little much saying you didn't plan for it today.
well, it wasn't planned to be on his birthday. I mean, remember there was an actor strike in between there, and then there's a bunch of things that happened. But it's
Or
silly.
what Gunn said was, come on, I planned to start shooting today for months. I didn't realize it was Superman's birthday
Yep.
until this weekend when people started posting.
That's
Are
what
you going to post something for Superman's birthday?
Yeah, he didn't mean he literally didn't plan. He just woke up today, decided, you know what, today's a good
Today
day.
feels like a great
Rally
day.
up the crew,
to
let's
start
get it
filming.
done. Like, no, not at all. They've been doing table reads for what, weeks now too? So like,
Yes, last week or something was the table
yeah,
read. We did an episode on
This
that.
is
yeah.
this is
So
like when you go into Simpsons comic book guy voice and go, you know, actually he didn't know that it was his birthday, and so he can't direct the Superman movie.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because there will be people that say that, and I'll say, look, I'm a Superman fan. I had no clue his birthday was on
Yeah,
Leap
me
Day.
neither.
It's something I just started seeing posted, like, oh, he's got to do something for Superman's birthday, and it's like,
And
what?
it's one of those things, and it's peak 2024 internet, where it's something that nobody had a clue about until the thing actually popped up. And then
Yep.
once it does, it's, oh my god, are you kidding me? Everyone's up in arms. It's so crazy,
You know what? It reminds me of like a married couple that both forgot the anniversary, and then when the first person reminds them, the other person's like, "How could you have forgotten?" Like
Yeah.
this, they both had forgotten.
The plot of like every other, like at least one episode of like every other sitcom in history. Like
I thought you were gonna say Everybody Loves
Well,
Raymond.
oh, dude, there you go, same
I'm
exact
sure
thing.
they do it
well,
in
this
there.
reminds me of Parks and Recreation and the town hall meetings, and like they're
Yeah,
like, we're gonna.
Yeah, when the people just stand up
She
complaining.
agrees to put Twilight in the time capsule, and then you have like this religious person going, "There's quivering." It's
Yes.
I think
ridiculous.
honestly, like just the internet in general is very much just like
Yeah.
a Pawnee town hall meeting. No matter what the topic is, you're just gonna have people coming out of all left field with all kinds of crazy takes and statements that are just ridiculous, what have you. But there's so much positive to talk about in this.
hmm
So let's get off
So
the
Yeah,
to
negative
yeah,
crap
we're
and all
getting
that.
off
so to
that.
transition perfectly, to quote a Pawnee Town meeting, we're not against you on this. We're not against you on
Not
this.
against you on this. Yes.
Okay, so let's read this statement then. I put it up on the screen here. This is
Oh,
the picture of the suit. We'll get into that. James Gunn,
yep.
overjoyed to be announcing the start of principal photography on Superman today, February 29th, which just happens to be, coincidentally and unplanned, Superman's birthday. When I finished the first draft of the script, I called the film Superman Legacy. By the time I locked the final draft, it was clear the title was Superman, making our way to you, July 2025. Ron, you're a big proponent of the title change. Chris is not, so we're going to go debate style here. But I want to get Ron. Why should we be for this change?
So it's a change that on the surface doesn't seem like all that big a deal. You're dropping a tagline from the end of the name of the movie, but it feels like so much bigger than that to me from a sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Like a statement like kind of way. You know what I mean? When you hear the word legacy, you think old. You think there's a lot that's led up to this. This is sort of the next one in a long line. For casual audiences and like us, like super fans, will understand what it really is. But Joe Schmo, going to take their kids to the theater for a movie on Sunday is going to say, "Oh, legacy? Does that mean this is like Marvel, where we have to watch 50 movies leading up to it and this whole legacy of films before we get here?" This is very much James Gunn saying, like, this is a new generation's Superman. This is our cornerstone. This is our Iron Man. Like, how weird would it have been if the MCU started with Iron Man Armor Wars? You know what I mean? Like,
Right, right,
it
right.
just it's so much cleaner and neater and bold. It's just Superman. Here he is. This is the beginning of our universe.
Yes, and I'll even say, because I know people say, well, actually, Captain America, the first Avenger, had a title as well. It says the first Avenger, so it is like, hey, you can start here.
Mm-hmm.
Legacy, like you said, doesn't really feel like a start. Chris, you said you love having a word associated with Superman. Give me your thoughts on why you wanted it to stay
All right,
Legacy.
so when they started making Superman movies, they started by just calling it Superman. And we have Superman the movie, Superman 78, which is iconic and stands the test of time. I kind of like, oh, so now we're gonna have two movies named Superman, which isn't gonna get confusing for anyone, but I kind of like the, you know, the word after it.
Distinctness,
I'll,
like it like
yeah,
kind of
I'll,
makes it more distinct
Yeah,
and stands out from the
and
rest.
I also kind of wanted it to be like, look, this isn't. So for me, the word after it was, look, this isn't just a run of the mill Superman. There's something they're trying to do with it. That's legacy to me was like, oh, cool. It's a defining trait. It was like if the Batman had a defining thing. Once, the Dark Knight. I like it when it's not exactly just called Batman or not exactly just called Superman. I like the word there to it. It's not a huge deal, but I genuinely do not believe that the reason people wouldn't see it was because of the word legacy. I don't believe that. I think it might be true that it is better branding wise, but I also think this movie needs to set itself apart from everything, period, in the genre, period. So, Superman Legacy being its own thing, you could brand it as its own thing. You could get people excited about Superman specifically because of this movie, forgetting everything else. I because I think the big fear that the Snyder fans have, which we shouldn't really give into them as we've learned, the big fear is we're going to go too far in the other direction, and we're going to go pitch for pitch Christopher Reeve Superman, and
Like super hokey
yeah,
kind of, yeah.
well, to that I would say, you mean, and when it comes to Snyder fans, they're not very big fans of the character itself. But what I was going to say is like when you say, "Oh, I'm too scared they're going to go Christopher Reeve Superman," it's like, okay, that's like Superman though. Like
yeah,
that is
yeah.
Superman. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like saying, "Oh, I think they're going to go to Stan Lee Spider-Man here." It's like, yeah, that's the
I just
character.
like
Like
that
that's
this
what
had
he
a
is.
defining thing that was, defining vibe.
And
That's my only
I
thing.
also I get what you mean too, Chris, in terms of like it as much as yes, the Christopher Reeve Superman is Superman. At the same time, characters do have to evolve with time. You know, there are very few superheroes who have been, like Batman, Spider Man, who have just basically been the same character for the most part the whole time. Obviously, there's all kinds of different, artist renditions and takes on the
Yeah.
characters, but in a general sense, the central vibe has kind of always been the same with
Mhm.
those. I think that Superman is the only one that, and maybe it's just me, and maybe this is me coming in here dropping bombs on the DC show, but I feel like Superman is the one more than any of them where if it's done to like classic kind of run of the mill, just how we've always known it, it can tend to be a little more hokey than compared to a Spider-Man or a Batman. So if you can bring some aspects of the Snyder stuff in there, not so dark like they did it, but enough to where that there's like genuine real like like stakes laden conflict in the movie as opposed to just Superman comes in and one punch and saves the day because that
Oh
was
yeah.
that was very old Superman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's invincible.
Well,
He can do it all. Like he's
yeah.
got a yeah. Sorry,
What I would
I'll give
say
up.
is for anybody that is concerned, I guess, about 78 being the template. I do think James Gunn is going to bring his own thing to this. The character
Hmm.
has evolved, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that is before Crisis,
Yep.
right? That is before Crisis on Infinite Earths. He got rebooted with John Byrne's Man of Steel run
Mm-hmm.
that kind of gave us a lot more of what we know of Superman's lore since then. Um, so I don't think you really have to worry about like. Look, I know people will say like he's gonna save cats out of trees. He should. Is that going to be the main villain of the movie? A tree? No.
No.
Like it's going to be like if anything, it'll be like a montage of him just doing stuff to help
Hmm.
everyday people. The way Peter would. Peter helped people stop bikes getting stolen. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a Peter Parker thing to do. And I think those characters are intrinsically linked a lot of the times.
Big
I've
time.
mentioned it on so many
Yeah.
Big
shows.
time. Yep.
So they both have a lot of the same core, a lot of the same thoughts about responsibility and what is what. So I do think you'll see elements of that, but I think Gunn will bring his own thing, and I think I side with Ron on the sense of, look, when I first saw this, I was maybe a little disappointed we were losing the tagline legacy, just because I've been
Maybe
calling
it's
it that
just a
for a year.
feeling of loss of something I've already gotten excited about.
Yes, we
Yeah.
already got
Yep.
used to
Because
it. And then
yeah,
now it's like, but I see the point on why. And then you can actually this back and forth where you can be like, actually Superman 78 is called Superman the movie, and then people will say, actually that was only a promotional material. The title of the movie is Superman, and then you can just go in
yeah,
circles.
yeah.
Did
But
you
most
just call
people call
Star
it
Wars A New Hope? It's actually just
yeah,
called Star Wars.
Star Wars. All right,
Like,
that's what it
shut
was in
up.
'77 when I went.
It's like,
Um,
shut up.
All
Like,
right, all right. So if you've been
so that is that.
yeah, good.
Sorry, Chris. That's my main thing here with this is like, most people call that Superman 78 or Superman the movie. When this comes out, people are not going to think you're going to see a replay of the Christopher Reeve film. They are going to know. And I'm sure Gunn and like Corn Sweat and all them are going to be on the circuit before the movie drops, and it's like, this is a brand new thing.
mm-hmm.
Because with Legacy, Superman Legacy, let's not forget about Superman Returns, right? Which was trying to do both. It was trying to be its own start with Ralph, but it was also trying to be like, we're right after Superman 2
Mm-hmm.
and blah blah blah. And that didn't work. So I could see then people being like, "Oh, Legacy is like them doing that again." So just having it called Superman and just kind of getting people fresh on this is
Mhm.
the start. And it makes so much sense when you're telling somebody, where do I start with the DCU? Start with Superman from 2025 instead of start with Superman Legacy. And they're like, well, there's 5 Superman. Which one? Like,
Mm-hmm.
at least then you can just say Superman by James Gunn or James Gunn Superman, and people know what you're talking about.
If you've been paying attention to what James Gunn has been sharing and saying, we've seen we get the Kingdom Come logo. He's been sharing Kingdom Come things. He's talked about Birthright for all seasons. He's shared reverence for a lot of different Superman stuff, especially All Star Superman. So if you've been paying attention to what he's taking from, I don't think you're going to have a problem because all of that is a blend of everything we love about Superman in the first place. Like, if you've been listening to Elseworlds, our thought process is a mix of Christopher Reeve with Superman and Lois Superman is probably what we want. Um, but you know, I don't want it to come off as cheesy and Thor: Love and Thunderish. And in this audience, see, here's the thing. Superman is this old school, hopeful, optimistic character, and I don't know how that plays in 2024 in a world where we're deciding between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and stuff like that. Like it's like the world is just this like dark, cynical place where he said, she said, everything's wrong, everything's bad, nobody can win, and you have this beacon of hope, and I don't want them to think of it as, oh, is this Batman and Robin like? You know what I mean? But I want all the hope and all the light and all the color and all the, like, my biggest thing is I want it more color with more bright lights with it. So I'm kind of like we shouldn't discount everything the Snyder cult is saying just because they were going to say this no matter what.
Yeah,
Well,
I
yeah, go ahead,
was
Ron.
just really quick. I was going to say, and totally just playing devil's advocate because I am firmly in belief that Gunn is going to kill this movie. But for people who are like worried about it, maybe being a little like kind of not cheesy, I would say more off tone is just because we've seen like every time James Gunn has been in the superhero sort of realm, his movies have had a very, very distinct vibe.
Hmm.
Whether we're talking about the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, Guardians, like even though they're from different universes, they all kind of felt the same in terms of the comedy and stuff like that. And I don't know how much of that would play in a
Hmm.
Superman movie. Now, I don't think that Gunn is
Mhm.
just going to make a James Gunn super like he knows he has reverence for the character. He knows what he has to do. So I don't think that's going to happen at all. But to at least kind of jump to the other side and see what they're seeing, I don't think it's totally irrational.
I think the comedy
Well,
will
what I
come
would
with
say
Lois and
is,
Jimmy more than it will from Superman.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, it's not gonna be like, because people just do the, oh, Superman's gonna tell fart jokes. I'm like, you're probably gonna get, if you get a fart joke, it's gonna be probably from
Yep.
Jimmy or somebody else. Guy
Guy
Gardner,
Gardner
maybe.
definitely is
But
going to
Guy
have a
like,
Gardner
fart
for
show.
sure. Nathan Fillion is going to be the comedic relief in that movie for sure.
yes, but it's like, Chris, you were saying you don't know if you can do this in 2024, 2025 with like upbeat, like optimistic beacon of hope type thing. I think it is a very easy thing to do without being hokey. Maybe we've seen this with like we like you mentioned Superman and Lois. That is like, people will say, well, that's CW. That show is not like your typical
Mm-mm.
CW show. It is, handles Superman the character very well. That shows you can be like, it doesn't always have to be like, I am a beacon of hope. That's what he is. But like, one of my favorite scenes in Superman and Lois is he saves a North Korean sub.
Yes.
And the US government says, why would you intervene like this? Now we're kind of in hot water. You save the enemy. He's like, I don't work for you.
I'm a
I
citizen of the
help
world.
anybody. And that is what, and you
Mm-hmm.
can do that in these type of times
Mhm.
and still have it come across as genuine and exactly what we
And
need
to,
right now. And I think that is something Gunn is going to be able to do when you see, like, watch Peacemaker, watch Suicide Squad, watch Guardians 1, 2, and 3, and he nails that type of thing constantly.
Especially in 3. Guardians 3 was kind of like
Yes. Yeah.
the magnum opus of that.
and to be fair, I'm not negative about this movie at all. Everything I'm like super. Like, I think it's totally gonna. I think he's
No,
gonna
I
kill
get
it.
it. Yeah.
I'm just like, this is the first thing that I was like, wait a second. I really, and maybe it is just I got excited about Superman Legacy. It's named Superman Legacy in my heart, and it's like, it's just I also like the idea of it, Superman Legacy coming out, and then Legacy ends up having this double meaning because of the legacy of what this did for DC movies. But although it would go the other way if it wasn't successful.
Yeah.
I've got to say, to that point, I was thinking about this earlier. What exactly, like, what would that tagline have meant to this movie? Knowing that this movie is a brand new world, a brand new Superman, brand new everything, like, where would the legacy aspect have even really tied in?
So the theory, right? Because what Gunn has kind of talked about, what the legacy, why it was legacy, is kind of like him kind of entering this world of heroes that have already existed, like these JSA members, like Mr.
Mhm.
Terrific, Hawkgirl, and stuff, and maybe the Authority, and kind of having some sort of impact with that, in the sense of what people have been putting out there is the reverse Kingdom Come theory, where they say, because in Kingdom Come he like has to come back as a
Yeah.
beacon of hope for the younger generation.
Mhm.
In this, maybe just being that, saying like, hey, this is how we should be doing this, right? And kind of set the new standard and that type of thing. But
Oh,
also,
okay.
he talked about it maybe being with legacy between his
Yep.
Kryptonian heritage and also his, Clark Kent, person
Gotcha.
heritage and stuff. So it had multiple meanings. I think those tones, I think that'll still be in this. Obviously, it's just, you can have the theme of the movie without it being in the title of the movie, and I think that's what they've opted for here.
the thing that the thing that works for the just calling it Superman is there's nobody who's going to be confused about who Clark Kent is, Kal-El. There's nobody who's going to hear Kryptonite and go, "What the hell is Kryptonite?" There's no one who's going to say, "Daily Planet, what the hell's the Daily Planet?" You can just kind of have all of these things as established things. It's not an origin
Well, now,
story.
Chris, I'm picturing some person going to see Man of Steel without knowing that was a Superman thing, and just being like, "I thought I was going to see a guy made out of steel," and they're like, "What is this Daily Planet crap? What is this?"
I thought this was a movie about scaffolders who worked on the buildings in New York in the early 1900s. What the hell,
So the
man?
only time he was happy is when he bends the jerk struck in the
Yes.
bar.
Yeah.
He's like,
Like,
"Ah,
That's
there
what I'm
it is."
talking about right there, brother.
that's some metal work right there.
But yeah, Superman, they should know. He's one of the most recognizable characters. Let's talk the Shield.
Okay.
All right, because this is something we talked about. People call it Kingdom Come S. I do want to say it is a little different from what we were sharing last week with like the table
Mhm.
read and stuff. From what I see, it looks more like more than an S than the Kingdom Come
Yep.
Shield does, right? Like if you're watching on the video, you see the top right here of the shield. You see the red
It comes down.
starting
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You don't see
It's more
that
pronounced than an
on
S.
the yes.
It's like Cavill's suit had a baby with Kingdom Come.
That's a good way of
Yes,
saying
but
it,
better.
but better. So you still have that fat
Yeah.
piece in the middle,
Mhm.
and
Like the Kingdom
yeah,
Come, yeah.
you have the edges. It's you can see they made it their own.
But you also kind of get the first Superman S in this as well because there is no red outline. This is straight up
Yep.
yellow, it looks
Mhm.
like around here, which is like that first Superman comic on Action Comics where he's got that weird
Yeah.
shield. Where it's just a yellow outline, kind of like what I guess you have on your screen there
That's
from
what I
the
was looking. I was like, kind of like this.
was that New 52?
Yeah.
A bit where it just has the yellow outline, no red.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that helps. I think that helps it with the Kingdom Come bit. The Kingdom Come bit makes it look not like an S because the red on the top of the S matches in with the red of the border, and it can kind
Yeah.
of get muddled.
It just
And I know last
yeah.
week I said that like it makes sense if they're going with kind of like this is the Kryptonian symbol. We don't know that that's what they're going with. I'm sure it still is, and like it's enough that it doesn't look like an S where you can believe this is alien, but also enough of an S that
Yeah.
maybe he tweaked it afterwards, or people say, "Oh, that's an S for Superman." So I think that works.
Side note, we got to teach James Gunn how to use hashtags, man. What was that at the bottom of that post? Hashtag happy birthday, Clark. Hashtag leap year. Hashtag up and away. Like, very much a
I mean, I don't know. That's like my
Yeah.
hashtag, so I can forgive him.
Well, you're
Yeah.
gonna be a dad. You're gonna be a dad soon, so
Yes.
it tracks. It tracks.
And look, here's the thing with this is there's only one concern I have, and I've kind of already said it is I want the colors to be a little brighter. I was looking for a little bit of a more red that pops, a more yellow that pops, less muted. But other than that, I got no complaints, and I like that we didn't get a full suit reveal because then you're just gonna have too much out at once. People are gonna make their minds up about it.
They'll do that on Superman's half birthday. They got to
Yeah,
save something
yeah.
for.
They're gonna find some random issue where he got sick with kryptonite for the first time. This is the first time he got sick with kryptonite. You got to give us something.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think the yellow is much brighter than the Cavill suit. I think the red is a little brighter, but that blue looks
Yeah.
sharp. Like looking at the blue underneath this yellow, I think that
Well,
looks
it's in the
really
snow
sharp.
too, which makes me think
Yeah.
Fortress of Solitude. Which
Yep.
Yeah, they started filming in
I
Norway.
am so
supposedly,
ready
is what
for.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
reported.
I am so ready for
Yeah.
the Fortress of Solitude. I want a Fortress of Solitude that knocks her socks off. I will, and you know what? I would love either a little tiny key that's heavier that only Superman can lift, or that big comic booky gigantic key that only Superman can lift.
Yeah.
He's the only director I could think that would do
And
that.
I would love it.
And pull
Ron,
it
And
off.
have Crypto be the one who
Ron, what
lifts it.
yeah, Ron, what were you gonna say? It looked like you were gonna say something when I was talking about the colors. Did you have something about that?
So, it looks like that photo is a little bit kind of edited with the saturation taken down
That's
a
what I
little
was
bit.
thinking. Yeah.
Like all of the colors, it doesn't look like that's natural. Like as somebody who edits lots of pictures on these kind of one click phone apps we have these days, it looks like the saturation on that has been intentionally taken down. So I do feel like it'll probably pop a little more on screen. I think just for the sake of the art and the way it kind of matched the snow and kind of that grittier look. I think it was more just for this picture.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. I think even if not,
still
I like the colors. If it is, I would like them a little brighter, but that red, especially like the middle where the light's actually hitting the red, I think that looks good. I think that is the biggest thing about this is that it's hard to tell because it looks like there's shadow over top of this.
Yes.
Like you said, maybe that's the edit. Maybe that's this buried in snow or something. I don't know, right? But like right in the center is where most of the light seems to be hitting the yellow and the red, and I think it looks good.
Yeah, it looks very like kind of distinguished.
Yes,
and the textures too. That was my big thing was the texture. I didn't want, especially with that fake picture we saw kind of circulating online today, where like the colors were okay, but just at the end of the day, it looked like he was wearing an Amazon, quality in terms of like
he's
material.
What I show up in at the theater with.
Yes.
I might be cosplaying with a cape in the theater. I don't know. I'm gonna be like,
like that picture of Jack Black I sent you guys before.
I'm gonna slam the door open with some John Williams.
Love it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
I'm really excited for this. I'd rather just the Shield than seeing the full.
Yeah, we got
Corn Sweat.
We got a year and a half before this movie comes out. Like people can wait.
I actually can't wait. It's killing me.
But just think, it's one of those things where it's like if they drop the whole. I know you're not saying. I know you were just joking, but for the people who actually feel that way, like if they drop everything like now and they they give us everybody their costumes, all that stuff. Eventually, they're going to run out of stuff to show us, and then it's going to be, we haven't heard anything about Superman in 6 months. What the hell? What is James Gunn doing?
Stephen Amell of the
oh my god!
There's been his announcements. How about with the strike and another strike and
he's such a chode.
The time it takes.
He really is like such a chode. I didn't know he was like such a chode too. It wasn't until the last 6 months. Like ever since the strike thing, it's just been. I feel like one clip of Stephen Amell making an ass of himself after another.
Well, someone said that clip was from last year, but I saw it get so much more circulation right now that I don't actually know. So.
Here's the thing:
what is he talking about? Like, then I'll let you get on your soapbox, Chris. But like, what is he talking about? They made all these announcements for like. What did he want him to come out with the movie the next day? Like,
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, if it was last year, it makes it even worse because there were strikes last year. If it was before the strikes, it was like, okay, he got hired in November of 2022. He made the announcements in January, and then the strike started in May. So when would that have been where it's like, oh, give me something?
Yeah.
Like, it would have made no sense. And if it was this year, then you have to also think we had 2 strikes that lasted the longest in like the history of the strike.
Well, as we know, people striking for livable wages isn't something that Stephen Amell supports very much.
Yeah.
So maybe that whole thing just went over his head. But anyway, Chris, I concede the floor.
Well, you kind of hit on the stuff I was going to say. I'll save some for Jordan, but what I will say about Stephen Amell is every good, positive emotion I have about Stephen Amell is directly tied to Arrow and his character. And everything I have seen outside of Arrow and his character has been, I don't want it. I don't want it. He strikes me as the kind of person that is all about Stephen Amell. One of the things that really turned me off, and I really like Michael Rosenbaum, but he went on his show twice. He had a panic attack on the show, then he came back, and they made a big deal about how brave he was for coming back and doing it, and it was just like, it just was so, the way they capitalized on it was so self-serving. It made me wonder how genuine of a person Stephen Amell is. I don't think he's a very genuine person. Again, what I'll tell Jordan, I'll just told you is every positive thing I have about Stephen Amell, Arrow, and his character, everything outside of that, it's grossed me out.
Yeah.
I don't know him enough to say anything. I just think that he knew who he was playing up to
Yeah.
in the convention, and that's all it is.
And well, that's
I don't think he really cares. Is he that big of a DC fan? It was a job. Like, I don't think he really cares.
no. But then to Chris's point, then it kind of it just supports that it's just very disingenuous and very kind of fake. And between that and all the strike stuff that he had to walk back, and everyone will say, "Oh, he went back on that." If he didn't get the pushback on that, he wasn't coming out and going. And I think there was like a photo op like a week later that he was standing out, doing strike. And I wonder how long he was there, by the way. But yeah, so ultimately, I can't make any character assassinations against him.
I don't know him
personally.
Don't know from
And
Adam.
oh yeah, I'm not absolutely not saying you're doing that, Chris. But just to your point, everything that we've seen from the guy, especially in recent months, off camera, has just been very off-putting and not the type of guy you want to go get.
In a world of Stephen Amell's, be a Grant Gustin. All I gotta say.
There you go.
All right, back on topic. Anything else about the suit or the title or anything? Do we think the movie moves? He didn't say July 11th, but I assume
I don't think he has to. I think if he keeps saying July 11th, it gets suspicious. Like,
I think they're going to ultimately end up moving it. I think it's going to be one of the two majors will end up moving. No pun intended with Marvel majors. Either Fantastic Four will push, and we've heard kind of some rumors about that they might push that back to November and then push, I believe, Blade into the next year, which again, still don't know why they're making that movie. But if Marvel doesn't move and we're like, getting into the end of this year, holiday season, and it looks like Marvel's going to stand pat, I do ultimately see Superman switching off the date just to maximize. Like, why put yourself in a position to lose even, one person who is going to buy a ticket to that movie from a casual standpoint, who's going to then go, Marvel's got one coming out. We'll go see that instead. Like, do I ultimately think it'll make that much of a difference? No, probably not. But in a time where you're trying to build this thing back up to be where Marvel's at, every viewer counts.
I don't think it matters that much because you make your whole box office statement in the first 2 weeks. So I feel like you have that 2 week buffer. I feel like if you were going to go see Superman Legacy, you're going to go see Superman Legacy. If you weren't, you weren't. I don't think it makes a difference. So I could very easily see them staying. But if they move, I'll be disappointed, but I get it. I will get it. I'll be disappointed if they move.
Yeah, because you got to think this is. I mean, the diehards, like you said, are going to show up. If they were going to see Superman, they're going to see Superman. But it's more attracting that that crowd of a parent with 3 kids who goes to the movies once a month or once every other month, who's like, "What are we going to go see now?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what turns your movie from being sort of a successful like superhero film to being a legit box office like stud.
Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom was not a great movie, and the box office did way better than it should have because of when it came out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So it can make a difference, and if it's only a matter of a couple months, as much as I would, to your point, Chris, that July would be awesome if we get both of those.
I want that
in the same
July.
month.
I want that.
Me too.
I want to go to the movies like 6-7 times in July. I want that.
Yeah, and I will between the two of those, and I know we all will between the two of those
3
movies,
each.
and,
Yeah,
and
sure.
definitely seeing them multiple times, which we definitely will. We would be in the theaters 5-6 times that month, and I want to so bad. So please do not move it.
The fans win.
Out of the 3 movies scheduled for July that people are worried about, you got Superman Legacy, you have Jurassic World, and you have Fantastic Four. One of those have started production. None of the other ones have.
Yeah.
You have Jurassic World went and got Gareth Edwards. Right? I believe that was
is
the news.
that?
I think that was the news that came out as the director. So that is look, he'll hit the dates. He played ball with Rogue One, and he still kept his credit on that movie. So he'll play ball with Universal and get that movie out. But I don't know if that one will hit in July. They have to, like, they are still don't even have scheduled start dates on filming. Fantastic Four at least does, but they're saying that would start maybe in July or August. That gives them a year, which is sometimes enough time. Like, I know when I was looking at Star Wars movies, they could start production a year out
Yeah.
and finish it.
With-
Like
with
Rise of
volume?
Skywalker
Yeah.
Rise of Skywalker had like no problem. They were still filming early 2019 or whatever. They still put that movie out. Like they had no problems hitting that date. So I don't know. I think if there is one to move, I don't think it'll be Superman. I just don't, because that one is going to be already in the can at a certain point, and it's going to be the only one that I feel is not going to be rushed to reach July of
And
2024. So for me, I think it's the most safe.
I
out
have
of the
two
movies.
reasons why it stays. And the first reason is you can't a little art of war. You can't show fear. You can't make it look like they're afraid of Marvel. You can't make it look like the former administrations that were going to back down. You need to build hype for this movie, similarly to what you did with The Flash, but actually build hype, not just have celebrities say it was great. Um, I don't.
Stand on business, as the kids
I
say
don't need
today.
Stephen King and Tom Cruise to tell me this movie's good, but I need hype to be built. I
Tom Cruise didn't even say that, by the way. It was like secondhand source saying Tom Cruise said it. Like Tom Cruise never came out on Twitter and said The Flash is great. It was like somebody saw Tom Cruise saw this and he said it.
They got the quote from him on the set of Multiverse of Madness when he was filming his Iron Man.
Yeah.
So, but that's one reason. Can't show fear. You have to show confidence in this brand. And the second reason is the longer you have this movie in the can, the longer that you have it done, the more stuff that is going to come out, the more impatient is going to be. Because if you look at the fan bases for these movies, the fan bases that are almost prodding this movie in every which way, you got the people who want it to fail, you got the people who want it to succeed, and they're just coming at it and prodding it. I think you just kind of need to make a good movie, get the good movie out there, you put the date down. I really believe confidence is the only thing that's going to sell this movie. If you show a bit of fear.
It's his dad's birthday too, by the
Mhm.
way, and he's making this
Yeah.
dedicated to his dad. So
Yeah.
I think it would be tough to
Mhm.
push it. What I'll ask is, who has the most pressure? Is it Fantastic Four or Superman? Because I think it's actually Fantastic Four. This is going to be the third
Mhm.
reboot in less than 20 years, right? And by the time it comes out, it'll be 20 years, 3 times that they've rebooted. And uh, most general consensus is they haven't made a good Fantastic Four movie. It is back in the MCU's hands now, and they had a good run at the point where people are like, give them everything, give them Fantastic Four, give them the X-Men, give them Spider-Man. And then now the current consensus is, actually those movies weren't as bad, and also uh MCU sucks now, so like don't give them this, they'll ruin it anyway. And it's like a total 180 shift in the course of like 3 years. That I think actually more pressure is going to end up being on them, because it's got to those have got to be the characters that keep it going. If Superman Legacy bombs or Superman bombs, like there is no universe to worry about. with the MCU, it's like they're still trying to chug along without
Mhm.
Iron Man and Cap. It's like this is the core team that they got to nail. So I think there's a lot more pressure on Marvel.
It's like the guy going into a fight against a heavyweight with nothing to lose. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? The heavyweight champ being Marvel, and here's DC coming again, just not the no name challenger, because DC is a mega prominent brand, but in recent years, very much so, kind of like the little brother out of the spotlight compared to Marvel in the general audience eye. So yeah,
General audiences don't quite connect with the Fantastic Four the way that they should. This is a very comic booky franchise. This is a very comic booky corner. I know the problem Marvel has is a lot of what they're doing is going to connect to it, but you also have the thing. Will this thing in the '60s work? How is it connecting to the MCU? Is it gonna
If it's in the
right?
'60s, there's no
Well, and
confirmation
the
at this
more if
point.
you
It's in the
So
60s.
the
For the sake
we'll
of the
see.
conversation, we
okay,
have to. If it's not fully in the 60s, a large portion of it is going to be, or there's going to be something in that movie that is at this point. I can't even just say that. I think the art we saw there quite literally in 1962. So
yeah.
like I would
Or
be
just the Life magazine is, the Time
Uh,
magazine.
maybe maybe
They rented the one from the
yeah
library.
yeah,
They're just reading
they're
old
a little
back issues.
behind on
yeah. They're a
they're a
little
little
bit
behind
tired.
on
Gotta
their
catch up.
back
I,
orders.
I,
Yeah, they're running.
they're running behind on time. But guys, I think Fantastic Four has a lot more work to do than Superman because Superman is the granddaddy of all. Superman is something that resonates across generations, and you really just have to stoke the fire. Whereas Fantastic Four, you have to build the fire. You have to like create a whole like kindling, logs, everything. Whereas Superman, you
and
just have to put some lighter fluid on it and wait.
and it's a fire that even though like Jordan said people are kind of doing revisionist history on this, but this is a fire I would say you're trying to restart that's already been doused with water twice
Yeah.
between those first two swings and misses. Like it's one of those things. I also think a big thing with the Fantastic Four, we won't go off on a big tangent here though. Uh like a big thing with them and why they don't always resonate so much is they aren't quite as relatable as some of the other like heroes that we've come to love, whether it's a kid that got bit by a spider, or just go down the list of all these kind of superheroes that you can at least general like maybe kind of a little bit put yourself in their shoes. It's really tough when it's like, okay, yeah, this family of rocket scientists and astronauts and all this stuff, they get these cosmic powers and they come back, and it's just it's a little bit tougher of a sell. So that's kind of why I think that Fantastic Four has a little bit more to prove, I guess, than Superman,
Yeah.
even despite all the stuff that DC does have to prove right now. Because I don't want to minimalize that as well by saying,
Uh-huh.
Fantastic Four's got more to prove. Because at the end of the day, they do, especially coming off of Deadpool and Captain America, which we assume are going to be pretty damn good movies. So
If you
if that
if
flops,
you told me three
or is
years
it?
ago, if you told me 3 years ago that Superman Legacy was going to take on Fantastic Four, I would have automatically said Superman's got to move. If you would have told me three
Yeah,
years
yeah.
ago,
I would have still said don't, because just the brand of Superman is so
mhm,
much bigger than Fantastic Four.
it's the
Like you
best
said,
time.
Chris, maybe not so much with the relatability, but like they're very well known in comic circles, and even like general audiences have a general idea on who the Fantastic Four are. But like we used to say like Achilles heel, more people say like what's
Their
this person's
kryptonite. What's
kryptonite,
their
Yeah.
right?
kryptonite? Yep.
People know Lex Luthor. Like people know these characters more than they know the Fantastic
Hmm.
Four's characters. So I do think like the 75-year-old grandma that's going to take her kids, her grandkids to the movie will be like, I remember Superman when I was, uh, young, and I used to read his comics for a nickel, at the comic shop. She's going to go take them to see Superman because he's got 30 years head start on the Fantastic Four when it comes to that stuff. And we're like, you know, she saw Superman the movie when she was young or something.
Hmm.
Like there's other things that will get them over the line, I think,
Mhm.
for Superman than the Fantastic Four. And I say this as somebody that loves both of these. We have a Marvel podcast. It's on the network. It's called To the Infinity Saga and Beyond. We talk about this stuff all the time. But I don't know. I just think the brand of Superman's just bigger.
And it's the right time to take on Marvel.
But
If
we'll
you're
see.
going to take on Marvel, it's the right time to do it. You're never going to get a better shot at it. It's never going to be like, it's kind of like, it's kind of like you just got to do it. Like you just have to go in there and do it. I don't know any other way to say it. This is just say make a good movie, and if you make a good movie, and you market a good movie, and you actually market it, you actually make people want to see this movie, and they don't see this movie, I give the hell up. But if you do everything right, you should be successful because we just touted the brand. It's that simple. You just make a good movie, and I think they're going to. I have nothing but confidence in James Gunn, and Superman is again a character who. Look, I'm going through a Smallville rewatch. I love Superman and Lois. Uh, in my 30s, I've become a Superman comics fan. Like, I really love Superman. All of a sudden, he's a character that means a lot to me who I relate to more than pretty much every character in comics. It's really weird, actually. And, like, it's just the older I get, the more I resonate with Superman. But this is a character that you don't need to work that hard. You just need to make a good movie. Make me a good movie. And you know what? This is another one. If we have a good Superman movie and it doesn't work, and we have a movie that's legitimately good and it doesn't work, that's a failing of the culture. That's it.
Also, a lot of it comes down to just sheer expectation.
Hmm.
I mean, like I said, we're expecting Deadpool to be a pretty kick-ass movie, and Captain America as well, even despite the kind of lukewarm response of the MCU overall these last few years. So if um so yeah, I would say that people, the level of expectations on Marvel is, especially coming off of Deadpool and Captain America, is going to be a lot higher than what people expect out of DC. Even being a new universe, I feel like as long as the movie is good and not messy and not just stuff that people could say, oh, same old DC, it's going to do well. Whereas Marvel's at this point now where they almost have to be perfect, or else the piranhas are going to come out of the water and they're nipping at every little thing that could possibly be wrong. Things that we didn't see really through the first three phases from the fans. So I think
Hmm.
the level of expectation there is going to play into things very much as well.
And I'll just kind of wrap up my thoughts with this. The reason I'm so optimistic, and the reason I am thinking that this will be a hit, is because I just believe that James Gunn is going to make a great movie because that's what
Yeah.
he's done. If you like, this isn't blind faith. This is, if you look at his track record when it comes to superhero comic book films, it's Guardians 1, Guardians 2, The Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, Guardians 3. Like, that's like having straight A
Hmm.
pluses. Like, like that is, and it is the what highest grossing Marvel film last year. Guardians 3 made like close to
The most
$900 million.
respectable Marvel movie in a
That
long time.
that would be a huge hit for Superman. So that is, so it's not like blind faith that I'm dealing with. I'm not just like somebody that's like ultimately
Hmm.
I'm just going to believe in anything DC's doing. It's because I've seen
There's
what
Yep.
Gunn can
evidence.
do, and the fact that he's worked with Marvel, I think he'll avoid some of the
Yep.
pitfalls. He's been kind of open that there are ways that he said it without saying it, right? When he's like, we're not going to film a movie without having the script complete. That's a dig at Marvel.
Hmm.
Maybe not really a dig, but him looking at, like, look, he's thinking, I've never done that at Marvel. I'm sure at his three movies, he had
Hmm.
everything done. He has all the storyboards done. He's ready. He's prepared. But he sees across the hall because guess what? These are his colleagues.
Mhm.
And the people that he's working with have also worked on some of these other Marvel films. And they probably say, hey, James, we appreciate how you're handling this because on the other film, we're going
Yeah.
through
Every
reshoots right
single
now.
movie that Marvel's done since No Way Home, there's been stuff coming out about literally rewriting the script on set.
Right. And that is a way that worked for them before because they used to do it even in the
Hmm.
older phases as well. They used to adjust more in post. And it's like Gunn is not that way. Um, so he's gonna say, look, I'm gonna let these filmmakers do their thing, but it's not like full reign because he does have an arc that he wants to do. But it's like I'm sure he'll let them do any sort of stylistic thing within the movie. You want to do one of the Joss Whedon Dutch angles for some reason, he'll let you do it. If it's going to be like they're not going to all feel like the same thing. And he's kind of been open about not needing to watch every single thing in the universe too. Like that makes me think he knows exactly what he's doing, and they're not going to lean on that type of thing of like, hey, you just watched the last one, watch this one because you watched the last one like it's an episode of
Hmm.
TV. And that is how you have to start a new universe, especially during the time of where we're seeing not just superhero movies, but all franchises really struggling to make an impact at the box office, mostly because of the cost of how much it costs to go to see a movie. So people go see a couple. And you have Barbie and Oppenheimer that show that two movies released closely together can make money because they were very good films, reportedly. I haven't seen them, but it drove people out there. So, of course, if both are good, Fantastic Four and Superman, it won't matter if they're 2
Hmm.
weeks apart. People will go see them. But if like Fantastic Four has a 70 something on Rotten Tomatoes and Superman Legacy has a 98, they're going to go to see Superman Legacy and vice versa. And that's just how it is because they're going to say, I don't want to go spend this much money to see a movie that I might regret seeing.
If James Gunn, and I know I'm not the only one who's kind of said this, but if James Gunn makes Superman Legacy his magnum opus, if this is one of his best movies of all time, if this is like a hit, he's the greatest comic book director of all time, and it's not even close. Like this is his way of just saying, I own this genre. I
Mm-hmm.
will tell you, Marvel, one of the problems I'm seeing with Marvel is I wonder about how invested some of them are into the projects that they're doing. Like Taika Waititi didn't strike me as a guy who was like super excited about. I don't even want to say reading the comics because I don't really think you have to be like a nerd to make a good movie. You have to know how to make a good movie, and you have to follow the process. But
You have to fundamentally understand the
and you have to
characters.
care about the world a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. I think what makes Matt Reeves so successful with the Batman was he grew up loving Batman in the '60s. He's seen every variation there is. He's obviously got an eye for horror and suspense and stuff like that. And he did the Planet of the Apes stuff, and he knows action. But like he just cared. And James Gunn cares more than any director. He wakes up in the morning and he shares pictures of reading All Star Superman, and like he's not doing that to show off. He does that anyway. Like he would like share pictures of like Superman stuff before he was doing Superman stuff.
And I think he also brings like you see every movie he works on. He's always sharing photos with the cast, like going out to eat with them and stuff. It just and that's not to say Marvel, like other directors and stuff, don't have this relationship as well. Maybe they just don't like post about it as much. But from an optics standpoint, based on the stuff that we have, the fact that Gunn's movies aren't just movies; they're more like
Hmm.
families amongst the cast, and even bringing the fans into it. The way that he does that, I think that's a big part of it as well. So yeah, if he nails Superman and it's it's obviously not going to be just another James Gunn movie like we've come to know. If he can stop on a dime and make a Superman movie like that and kind of buck that narrative that he isn't just a one trick, fart joke kind of guy like we were saying before, uh, definitely best comic book director of all time in my mind.
Peacemaker showed that he's not just a fart joke guy. I mean, that was one of those surprisingly deep shows. Like that one, I'm like crying over Peacemaker. I'm crying over an eagle hugging a guy in a silver toilet bowl looking helmet. Come on, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's already there. I think he already is the best just because he's shown he can do it at both companies and, can do a rated R, can do BG 13, can
Hey,
do a TV show. Like, that is just, I mean, I don't know. anybody else that can really spread it out that way and do that much work. He also wrote all of Creature Commandos and Peacemaker season 2 while he's doing before he gets started
guys,
shooting this. I mean, that's
March
amazing.
is going to be his month. That's all I'm going to say. March is going to be his month on this network. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll let Jordan tell you if he wants to.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I think I mentioned it before.
Okay. You're talking about future shows.
Yeah.
You're talking about.
Yeah. We have our March Madness bracket coming out later in March, and we will be doing voting on our Twitter and other social medias, I guess, polls on our March Madness bracket, if I can talk.
Easy for you to say.
And the topic is James Gunn soundtracks. And so I picked 64 songs out of Guardians 1 through 3, Peacemaker, and Suicide Squad. And they have been broken up into 4 different regions, I believe, from my friend Jack. And he has also seeded them based on mostly popularity, the best we could.
Do you have them up in front of you?
The songs and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can pull it up.
Can I try? I want to try to guess the top 4 seeds.
Okay, yeah. Let me tell you the.
I got a feeling. No, I said the wrong tune with that one. Holy shit!
You think Hooked on a Feeling?
Yeah, Hooked on a Feeling.
I got a feeling.
I got a
like
feeling.
What's it? The
I don't know why that came out of my mouth.
Okay.
Like that.
If that song is in Superman Legacy, I'm walking out of the fucking theater.
Okay, so there's 4. There are 4 brackets. So it is pretty much like classic. They're broken up by year. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Pretty much.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Jesus.
So 67 to 72, I believe, is one of the one of the things. So that is the top seed on there is Ain't No Mountain High Enough.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, yep.
Then from 73 to 78.
Would that be
79?
Mr. Blue Sky?
Yes,
Hey.
correct. 81. No, sorry, 79 to 2010.
Ooh.
This is a big
Holy crap.
jump here.
Is it something 90s?
Yes.
Wish I was special.
Yeah. Was that it? Creep?
Creep? Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes, it is.
Good poll, Chris.
And then we have 2011 to 2022.
Is that the Peacemaker theme song?
No.
It is actually Pumped Up Kicks.
Oh, okay. Wow, it's the 1 seed. Wow.
The John Murphy version, but we had to rank it by the Foster the People version because I mean, not many people know the other one.
Was that
no, because actually, Do You Want to Taste It is actually in the one with Creep. It's in that bracket.
That's good. That's my sleeper one right there. I think that one's coming out.
Yeah, I think so too. So we got 64 songs that we will be doing that. So I'll be creating the matchups. I got all the information. I just got to actually create the brackets and post them and do the polls. So that'll be probably mid-month when March Madness.
Can I make a sleeper prediction? Crazy on You from Heart is going to win the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't think it has enough to win the whole thing.
It could be a Sweet 16 or maybe
it's probably my favorite of the James Gunn songs, especially that version of it. With it, especially it's Adam Warlock's song now. It just is.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. That whole the whole thing it became with the meme, the Adam Warlock meme and everything.
It's
great.
Yeah, so that's what's coming up on the socials there. So make sure we wanted to do something that fit with both Marvel and DC, and how best to celebrate that. Then the director that's done stuff for both and is very famous for his soundtrack picks, and there's a lot of them. And it worked out that there's actually more than 64. I had to kind of trim because I also included the Christmas songs from the holiday special.
Oh, okay.
I don't know
And
what Christmas
stuff like that.
is.
So I had to really just pick stuff at a certain point, but it's like most of them are the full
Nice.
soundtrack. I think I only cut some of the Christmas stuff. I picked,
Right.
the originals off of that, and then I had to pick and choose out for Peacemaker as well. But
Nice.
So
yeah,
we were just talking about Adam Warlock, though. It's funny. We live in a world where people saw Adam Warlock flying, like looking badass as hell, and you're like, "Oh God, I can't wait to see what he does with Superman." And it was just like we live in that world where, like, that was like we all had the same thought, and that's cool.
yeah, it was shot well, and I think he brought the same
hmm
cinematographer over that he's worked with. John Murphy is doing the music. I don't know if we talked about that before, but he did the Suicide
hmm
Squad score and
Mhm.
Guardians 3. So he's worked
Nepotism
with
at
this
its
guy a lot.
finest.
Yeah, I hate when people choose to work with people they work well with.
Ugh,
What the
so
hell?
Well,
dumb, so
I actually,
unfair.
It's like me. It's like having you guys on my other
yeah,
podcast.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
there's a deserving podcaster who's not getting the limelight because we keep getting the microphone.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up here. At at Elseworlds DC fan for all of the social medias. Make sure you like and subscribe to us here on YouTube. Our last video with the legacy updates did very well. So thank you for anybody that commented or liked it or viewed it. So thank you for that. Make sure you subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can also rate and review us there. It helps more people find the show. Uh, Other than that, have a great rest of your week. This was a emergency episode, so I don't know. I guess Chris, we'll figure out if we're doing one next week then, because we're kind of on
Yeah,
this bi-weekly thing and this
I'll be
wasn't
ready for a
scheduled. But
Smallville update at least. So,
okay, so we can
yeah.
at least do that. So stick around for that if you're interested in Chris's Smallville journey as we celebrate more Superman's birthday throughout the month, I guess. With that, have a great rest of your week. We will catch you next time.